Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel's Making with Marilyn. Now I do all things crafty, but on today's video I'm going to show you how I made these super cute tumblers. Now this video is going to be in 3 parts. The first 2 are very short. I'm going to show you the design that I use in Creative Fabrica. I'm going to show you how I slightly modified it in Inkscape, and then I'm going to show you the full process. Now if you want to skip the Inkscape part, when I get to that section, I'll let you know how far ahead to skip. Now to start my project off, I'm in Creative Fabrica, and I've found a couple designs that I think are very cute and would make really cute tumblers. So let me go to my downloads. Now I've narrowed it down to this skinny American flag tumbler PNG. I thought that was beautiful, beautiful colors. And then the other one that I like is this American flag tumbler. Now I want to make something for the 4th of July, but something I could use anytime I want, and I want it to be a little bit girlish. I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. So I click download, and then on my computer they go straight to a downloads folder. So I'm going to drag that up. Let's look and see what we get in this file. All right, I have a 20-ounce straight. That's what I want. It also comes with a tapered, a 30-ounce tapered, and a 30-ounce straight. So I'll just drag this over to my desktop and close this out. Now I'm going to print this from Inkscape. And Inkscape is a free design software. Now mine is defaulted to a 12 by 12. So the first thing I want to do is go up to File, say Document Properties, and then I need to pick the 8.5 by 11 sheet. I can close that out. Now I have the right size sheet that I can print from. So I'll just drag my image right over to it. And then I always just use the default settings here, so I'll say OK. All right, so we can see right now that this is 9.3 by 8.2. I'm going to go ahead and hit the lock function, and I'm going to change this to 9.35. I like them to be a little bit longer around than what they have it as. And then I typically print at 8.25, so this is just fine. Now let me zoom in. I want to show you something. I would prefer to have more flag and less of the animal design. So I'm going to go ahead and create a square or a rectangle that's the size that I want. So I've created my rectangle. I have to click on this select tool. Now that it's selected, I can see the size. I'm going to go ahead and change that to 9.35 by 8.25. Now the reason you can see through it is right here. I have the opacity way down, and it's just defaulted to the last thing that I used. Now what I can do is, let's just select both items, go to Align and Distribute, and then center them together. Okay, might make it hard for me to grab the flag. I'll move that over just a little bit. Then I can click on the actual design, and I want to stretch it. Then with this rectangle on top, I'll go back, I'll select both items, and then center those up. Now you can see if I use the size of this rectangle, I'm going to cut off some of this animal print on both sides, the top and the bottom. So with both of those selected and this rectangle on top of my PNG image, I go up to Object, Clip, and Set, and it got rid of that extra animal print. Now I think I'm going to get rid of just a little bit more. Let me lock this so I don't distort it. Drag that a little bit larger. Once again, I'm going to get my rectangle, make it the size I really want to print. Select both items, get it centered, and then once again, Object, Clip, and Set. All right, so that's what I'm going to go with. Now it is sublimation, so I need to mirror the design, so I click Flip Horizontal. Now I have to do it in the software because my printer doesn't flip it for me automatically. You might have a sublimation printer that does. All right, let's zoom back out just a little bit. Now I know it's going to print the right way for sublimation, but I need it to fit within my paper. So I'll say rotate 90 degrees, and then as long as I drag it so that you can see the whole image within the boundaries of my paper, I'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and print this out so it can be drying, and then I'll move on to the rest of the project. Now here's the materials that I'm going to use in today's video. I have a tumbler, some alcohol heat-resistant gloves, heat-resistant tape, my rotary cutter. I'll also use a metal ruler and a tumbler press. And this is what I have for a design. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and clean off my tumbler. So I'm going to make sure and set my design where I can't get any overspray on it. And then I have a Teflon sheet down just so that the overspray or the alcohol doesn't get on my cutting mat, because I'm going to use my cutting mat to cut down my paper here in just a minute. So I put a little spray on my paper towel and then just clean my tumbler. Now, is this necessary? I don't know. It's just something I've always done, just in case there's any oil on it. Or maybe when I handled it, there was oil on my hands. So another thing I like to do before I start a project with sublimation is I like to go ahead and wash my hands. Now when I cut down my design, I want to make sure that at least one side of it has absolutely no white showing. So I'm going to slightly cut off this edge of the design. Now the reason I'm doing that is if you have any white up against your tumbler, then that's going to show up as white on your tumbler after you press it. So if you have one little sliver of white here, and that's on the bottom or up against the tumbler, that's going to show. So at least one end needs to have absolutely no white whatsoever. Now, if your other end has a little bit of white, you just need to make sure that part's not against your tumbler. And I'll show you what I mean when I wrap this. All right, so my tumbler's dry. Typically what I do is I have my tumbler facing up. Then I put the design around it flat on the table. Now, I have not used these tumblers before today, and my old measurement is too big. It's too tall. So I'm going to need to cut that down just a little bit more. All right, hopefully I didn't cut too much off. I need to refine the size for this new type of tumbler. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around it, and that is pretty perfect. Now what it does by setting it flat on the table with your paper flat on the table is it makes it so that your top and bottom seams match up pretty darn nicely. I got off a little bit there. Let's redo that. Okay, much better. And then because I'm more interested in the top, I don't worry as much about the bottom as the top. I think the top's a little bit more important than the bottom is. I can see my design just above the top, and that's exactly how I want it. So now I can go ahead and lay my tumbler down. I want to make sure there's no white on either side, because if there is, I need to plan for that. So let's pretend like there's no white on this side, but on that end I left a little bit of white. That would need to be on top of the piece that has no white on it. All right, so I have it pulled pretty tight. The first thing I'm going to do is just get a small piece of tape. I'm going to adhere it just to the piece that's on top. Then I'm just going to pull that paper together as tightly as I can and then press that down. Now after I've done the middle, I do the same thing on the bottom and the top. So again, get it pressed down to the piece that's on top. Then make sure before you press it down that your design or your paper fits very, very snugly. Okay, so then the way I tape it might be different than the way you tape it. If your way works fine, then keep doing it. But I like to use a process that I learned from a channel named Industrial Fringe. Now, I just want to make sure I don't see any metal over that paper. Then once I'm happy with it, I'm going to tape this so that the top of the tape is just about even with the top of the cup. And I'm pulling a little bit on it, but I'm not pulling it super hard. Now, if your way works perfectly fine, then the way I do it is a waste of tape for you. But I had several fails, so I really started watching a lot of videos. And I found this man, Industrial Fringe, and I actually corresponded with him a little bit. And I've used his way ever since because they turn out perfect. Or pretty close to perfect. They turn out way better than my old ones. Okay, so this next piece of tape, you can see it's about half on, half off. This time, I'm going to pull it really tightly. And when I pull that really tightly, it stretches. And then when you let go, you kind of have that rebound effect. All right, so I'm going to go around, press all the top of this to my tumbler, and then I'll just start pushing in and taping down. Now I'm going to do the same process on the bottom, so I'll just fast forward through that. But before I do, I want to take something and really make sure that top has a good, not really a bond with the cup, but is making contact with the cup really well. All right, so we're ready to put this in the tumbler press. All right, let me show you the first one that I did. The design is super cute, but I think the red turned kind of orange. So I'm actually pressing my second one, and instead of using as much time as I usually do I do 50 seconds, turn it 50 seconds, turn it 20, turn it 20. So a total of 140 seconds. Well, I learned a while back when I was making some baseball tumblers that red can get over-processed pretty quickly. So this time, I think I'm going to do 50 seconds, turn it a little bit, do 20 more and check it. We'll see. So I have my little butcher paper cradle around it. Now when I close the press, the time starts counting down on its own. And notice the heat really falls. That's because your cup's cold. But it'll climb back up. Now when this time's up, I'm going to go ahead and open it, turn it a quarter of a turn, and then press it again for 20 seconds. All right, so I'm just going to open this paper enough so that I can see what it looks like. Because if it hasn't fully processed, I'll stick it right back in. And I'm going to check it from the bottom. Ooh, this is hot. That way, if it shifts a little bit, it's the bottom of the tumbler, not the top. All right, I'm not going to take this tape all the way up, just enough so I can kind of peel this back. Ooh. Now I need to find a stripe, and you can see the stripe starts kind of all the way over there. There's a little bit of red there, but that's not the biggest part of the stripe. Whew, that's hot. All right, it looks like most of the ink has released. I'm going to go ahead and go for it. Okay, the paper stuck a little bit. Let me go run that under some water. I'll be right back. All right, there's the final product. Again, this design is super cute. But my red just looks a little bit off. Now I can tell decreasing the time did some benefit, because if you look right here where the seam is, see how this turned kind of orange and over here it's brown? That's the way it's supposed to be. And even if you look at the blacks, compare this to this, hopefully it shows up on camera. This one, the black is more vibrant. In this one, when I heated it so long, it started to fade. Again, I don't know if that's going to show on the camera, but I can see it with my own eye. Thanks so much for joining me today, and until my next video, bye-bye.